Well, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all today? I've been sick as a dog for the last 3 days. Got this stuff in my throat and my lungs, and I've been out working in the cold and kind of taking the edge off of me, but I'll try not to cough too much. Try to hit that button in time so that I don't blow out your ears with my coughing. I want to talk today. By the way, welcome to all the new people. Welcome to everybody who's with us on YouTube and on Patreon. It's great to have you. I want to talk today about all show and no-go. Talk a little bit about mindset, okay, as it relates to preparedness and gear and things like that. Before I get started, I want to bring your attention to the 2 lanterns behind me. Many of you have noticed and commented on those, and some of you know that those were made by Hondo Bob, one of our patrons on the Patreon channel. And he made those and he sent them to me. I went to the post office one day, there's this big box waiting for me. And it cost him a fortune to mail them to me. And he sent those to me along with a very long letter about Paul Revere's ride and the lanterns, you know, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, I on the opposite shore will be. I happened to memorize that entire poem back when I was in, I don't know, 5th grade, 6th grade, something like that. And so he sent those to me, and I have loved them ever since. You'll notice they're back there. I keep them going a lot. Whenever I'm in my office here, I keep them going, even during the daytime. They are constant reminders. They are the lantern, the light of freedom, of liberty, even though we live under something much less than that right now. Well, anyway, my point of saying this is that Hondo, over on Patreon, he left a comment that he's thinking about making these available online, and making more and making them available. And they are beautiful. I told him I was going to start mentioning them on here. Now, he hasn't put up the information yet, but I want people to start thinking about this now. I don't know how much he's going to charge for them, but if you want some beautiful Christmas gifts, I would suggest, I'm not going to take orders for him here. I don't want to get in the middle of that. I might mess it up for him. I don't want to do that. But if you're on Patreon, Hondo, let everybody know if you're deciding to do it, how to get a hold of you, everything like that. He'll probably post it in the community section. Feel free, Hondo, to put it in the regular section if you'd like, but put it in the community. So what a great Christmas present this would be for people who really do love freedom and liberty. They are just beautiful. You know, we talked before about developing new income streams, and it's so important. And this is I don't know if he's doing that for this reason or he just enjoys doing it or whatever, but I tell you, it shows you that people who are always thinking always come up with something. This is one of those things that I know he'll do very well with it. But man can give you something that is very, very special. I should say also, before I get into today's topic, if you're wanting to get sets of my books, especially if you want to get them, I'm reaching over here to get them because I didn't think about this before. If you want to get sets of my books as Christmas presents, better get your orders in pretty soon because, well, you better get them in really soon. Because even though I have some in stock now, they sell out quick. And Amazon, their delivery is kind of slow. So I'd say, if we don't get something pretty quick, I couldn't guarantee them. I couldn't guarantee them by Christmas. I should have talked about this before, and I didn't think about it. I'm sorry. And the link on how to get those books is the Stonemont series is down below. You can get them through Amazon. They get them to you pretty quick. Or if you want signed copies from me, I don't get them to you nearly as quick, but the way to do that is down there too. Also, if you want to know how to get to Patreon, that link is down there too. Come over and be a part of us at Patreon, and you'll find a lot of cool stuff like Hondo Bob. All right, all show and no go. You may have noticed that I don't do a lot of videos about gear. Yes, Steve, why haven't you done a lot of stuff about gear? Because everybody does stuff about gear. Everybody does stuff about gear, and so much about gear that just too many people think that it's all about the gear, and it's not. The people with all the gear, but without the mindset, I call them gear steers. They've got everything in the world. They've watched every video out there about the latest this, that, the other thing. They've got to have the newest knife. If there's a new gun that comes out, they got to have that. They got to have the next optic. They've got to have this. They've got to have a $200 knife. They've got to have, they've got 8 flashlights because they're always looking for the next best one. They want to know how many ounces your bag weighs. These people, for the most part, and I hope there are, if there are some of you that have seen yourself in my description there, my intent was not to offend you, but to try to redirect you here. You're playing the game without understanding the reality. Okay, you're playing dress up, essentially. Okay, and what I'd like you to do is not do that. I want to get your head right. Now, I've carried and I know people like this, and I keep saying I'm going to do this. One of these days, I'll show you my JIC bag. I'll show you my EDC. I just don't have time for that, and my head's not there anyway. I don't care about that stuff. It's just normal for me. I've carried a JIC bag, which is what we call the bag. I've called it a JIC bag forever, a just in case, JIC, just in case. I talk about it in my books. I don't give a detailed description of what's in it, but someday I'll do it on here, a JIC bag. Well, I've carried one for, almost 40 years. Almost 40 years. A bag that goes with me everywhere I go. You know how it started off. Well, I was in law enforcement. You know that. I was in undercover, so I carried a lot of stuff with me. And then when I had my gym, I had business. This is kind of, I started living out of a bag back when I had my gym. My main office was at my main gym, but I also had business in, let's see if I can remember, Kansas City, Warrensburg, this is all in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, Bolivar, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, Lawrence, Kansas. I can't remember every place. Excuse me just a second. Okay, sorry, I had to cough. But I spent so much time on the road, I was just always carrying everything in my bag. I carried all my paperwork, I carried food, I carried extra clothes, I carried all of those things, which just through the years became a JIC bag. When I was on the road, when I was out of town, sometimes I'd sleep in motels, sometimes I'd sleep in hotels, sometimes I'd sleep in my car, a couple of times I slept on the couches of my employees. So I always had to have everything with me to be able to function well the next day or the next several days. Plus, I always carried a lot of food in my car. A lot of times I just didn't have time or didn't want to stop by and eat in a restaurant, even a fast food. So I was self-sufficient pretty much. And if I had had to live for a length of time, it would have been fine. I would have been able to do it. If you've read the books again, one of the keys here is that that your mind has to be in the right place. Your mind has to be tuned to living outside the system that provides all of those little niceties and all those conveniences that you need to be able to survive without all of those. Because, whether it's just you're busy in business and you're on the road, over-the-road truck drivers know this. They prepare, not all of them, but many of them do this. Your mind has to be in a spot that you're always ready. If you've read my books, or if you have some of my books, you realize I always sign them, all the best, and Semper Paratus. Semper Paratus, and I talk about it in one of my books too. Semper Paratus means always ready. Okay. I also found out later on it's the motto of the Coast Guard. Some people have asked me, "Were you in the Coast Guard?" No, I wasn't. It's just the motto that I've always used. Always ready. Well, what are you always ready for? Well, you're always ready for everything. Now, some of that has to do with gear. Very little of it has to do with gear. It doesn't take a lot to be able to survive. It doesn't take a lot to be able to satisfy your physical requirements. What it does take is a mindset of being always ready to adapt to a changing situation and then to deal with it effectively. And not just to be able to go from one thing to another, even if there might be extremes, but to be able to go from one to another fairly seamlessly. You know, like, oh, big, everything's going on great, and then now everything's falling apart. Okay, well, no big deal. Now I just have all my, my mind's already there. Falling apart, it's just a new situation. It can't destroy you. It can't drive you nuts. It can't throw you into you've probably heard me talk about, there are three enemies in an attack or an emergency situation, and that is fear, or first confusion, fear, and then the situation or the attacker. So having your mind in a way that you can go from normal to abnormal fairly seamlessly is important. That doesn't have a lot to do with gear. It has very little to do with gear. And actually, concentrating too much on gear can have a counterproductive effect on that, because a person who is all wrapped up in the gear becomes gear reliant, right? Instead of mind reliant. And that's really what true preparedness and true adaptability is. I had a good friend of mine who went into and where we got this saying, all show and no go. A friend of mine went into a gym one time, and I won't say who it was. This friend of mine was, I'll just say that he's physically very effective. And so he went into a gym. He was looking for somebody, and he went into a gym, and the big muscle guy at the desk, kind of giving him a hard time. And my friend said, "Listen, you're built for show. I'm built for go. And if you want to go, we can." It was a funny line, one of those things that just comes out, but that's the truth. Are you show or are you go? And if you're constantly thinking about what more gear you need. Now, if you don't have it, you need to fill in the holes of your gear. Yeah, you need to have those things. You have the things. Much more important is mental resiliency. Okay. Be attuned mentally. Semper paratus. Always ready. Always prepared. Okay. So anyway, by the way, I put up over on the American Reversion site something about quitters. Talking about politics. For those of you who are interested in that, it's over there. So remember that. Did I tell you why I call them gear steers? I don't think I did. Because if you look at them from a distance, they look like a steer. They look like they're ready to go. But on closer inspection, you noticed what they're missing that would actually make them a steer, right? Okay. You all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and preparing well today means getting this in tune and understanding that it's this that's going to get you through the challenging times, not the latest Googa or doodad. Okay? Y'all have a good day. I already said remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Sorry, I'm sick. If you want to join us on Patreon, it's down there. Remember, if you want to order the books, they're down there. Have a good day, and I got to go out and go to work. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.